The glow from the 30 candles on Chloe's birthday cake cast long, dancing shadows across the dining room, making everything feel warm and festive. My sister, radiant in her emerald dress, was the undeniable star of the evening, surrounded by an adoring crowd. It was a picture-perfect scene, the kind you'd frame and put on a mantelpiece, but pictures, I was about to learn, rarely tell the whole story. I stood near the kitchen doorway of my parents' house in the Chicago suburbs, present in hand, watching everyone fawn over Chloe's latest achievement, a promotion she'd mentioned casually just 3 days ago. My mother, Sarah, had organized this entire party in record time, transforming their home into something that genuinely looked like it belonged in a magazine. Speech, someone called out. And Chloe, wineglass raised, stood to thank everyone for their love and support. Her eyes swept the room, landing on Sarah, Robert, her husband Ethan, but somehow, they skipped right past me. That familiar sting barely registered anymore. I'd grown accustomed to being background noise in my own family story. After the toast, I slipped into the kitchen to refill my water glass. The marble countertops gleamed under pendant lights I'd helped install 2 years ago during their renovation. Most people didn't know I'd paid for those lights, or the countertops, or the brand new appliances humming quietly around me. Then, Robert's voice cut through the quiet, laced with that familiar disappointment I'd heard my entire life. "Still here, Avery? Thought you'd have left by now. You usually disappear early from these things." I turned slowly, meeting his gaze. "Just getting some water. I brought Chloe's gift." He glanced at the small, wrapped box I'd left on the side table. "How generous of you." The sarcasm landed heavily between us. Though I'm sure it doesn't compare to what Ethan got her. That tennis bracelet must have cost him a fortune. "I'm happy for her," I said quietly, meaning it, despite everything. Chloe's happiness had never been the problem. The problem lived in how my parents measured worth, how they constructed a hierarchy where she occupied the penthouse, and I remained stuck in the basement. Robert moved closer, lowering his voice. "You know what your role is in this family, Avery. Always have been. You exist to support Chloe's dreams, to make sure she is everything she needs to succeed. That's your purpose." The water glass trembled slightly in my hand. 28 years of this, and somehow, hearing it stated so bluntly still had the power to wound me. "My purpose?" "Exactly." He crossed his arms, looking at me with something resembling pity mixed with irritation. "Your sister has potential. Real potential. She's going places. Always has been destined for greatness. Ever since she was little, you've always been more ordinary, practical. There's no shame in that. But someone has to be realistic about these things." I set the glass down carefully, worried I might drop it. "I graduated summa cum laude. I'm a senior financial analyst at yes. You have a nice little job." He waved his hand dismissively. "But Chloe is extraordinary. She needs support, resources, opportunity. We've always known she was special. You've always known it, too, whether you want to admit it or not." The party continued in the other room. Laughter and conversation, creating a soundtrack to this moment I'd remember forever. Sarah's voice rose above the others, praising Chloe for something I couldn't quite hear. "I've supported her plenty," I managed. My voice steadier than I felt. "I've helped with." "You've done what was expected," Robert interrupted. "What any decent sister would do, but lately your mother and I have noticed some resistance. Some reluctance." That attitude you've been carrying around like you're doing us all some great favor." He stepped closer, his expression hardening. "Let me make something crystal clear. Your job is to facilitate Chloe's success. That's your contribution to this family. If you hate it, the door's right there. Nobody's forcing you to stay." The words hung in the air between us, sharp and final. 28 years of feeling secondary, of being told I mattered less, of watching resources flow toward my sister while I scrambled for scraps. All of it crystallized in this single moment. Robert stood there, waiting for me to back down, to apologize, to accept my designated position in the family structure. Instead, I felt something shift inside me. A wire that had been stretched taut for decades finally snapped. "You're right," I said quietly. "Nobody's forcing me to stay." His eyebrows rose slightly. "Excuse me? I'm gladly leaving." My heart hammered against my ribs, but my voice remained calm. "Good luck paying the $380,000 mortgage I've been covering for the past 4 years. The color drained from his face. "What are you talking about? The mortgage on this house?" I gestured around us. "The one you and Sarah took out to pay for Chloe's wedding, then extended to cover Ethan's business startup costs, then refinanced to fund their down payment on the condo. The monthly payments you'd been handling for years? I've been wiring $3,200 every month directly to the bank. You've been depositing my checks and using them for the mortgage while telling Chloe you two paid for everything." Robert's mouth opened, then closed. "That's not. You can't just—" "I absolutely can." Something like freedom was starting to bloom in my chest. "I'm done with all of it. The mortgage payments stop immediately. The loans that were never supposed to be loans? Consider them gifts. I won't ask for a penny back, but I won't send another dollar forward either." "You ungrateful," he started, but I held up my hand. "I'm going to go say goodbye to Chloe. Wish her a happy birthday and leave. You have until tomorrow to figure out your finances. I'd recommend calling the bank first thing Monday morning." I picked up my purse from the counter. "Oh, and Robert, I'm ordinary and practical, remember? Which means I have 4 years of bank transfer receipts, text messages about the mortgage, and emails discussing the refinancing. All documented, all dated, just in case you try to claim I'm lying about any of this." His face had gone from pale to red. "Your mother can call me herself if she wants to talk, but I'm done being the family ATM while being treated like the family disappointment." I moved past him toward the living room, my legs somehow still working despite feeling like jelly. Chloe stood near the fireplace, laughing at something Ethan had said. She looked so happy, so blissfully unaware of the financial house of cards my parents had built around her life. Part of me wondered if she even knew about the mortgage situation, or if she genuinely believed Sarah and Robert had paid for everything out of their own pockets. "Hey," I said, approaching her with what I hoped looked like a natural smile. "I need to head out, but I wanted to say happy birthday. Really happy for you on the promotion." She hugged me briefly, already distracted by another guest approaching. "Thanks for coming. Oh, did you meet Ethan's new business partner? He's around here somewhere." "Maybe next time," I said, and slipped away before she could respond. The drive home to my apartment in downtown Chicago took 20 minutes. I white-knuckled the steering wheel the entire way, barely registering the streets I'd traveled 1,000 times before. When I finally pulled into my apartment complex, I sat in the car for 10 minutes, shaking. Then I pulled out my phone and did what I should have done years ago. I logged into my banking app, found the automated monthly transfer to my parents' mortgage account, and deleted it. 4 clicks. That's all it took to end 4 years of financial servitude. My phone stayed silent that night. I half expected an immediate call, but none came. Maybe Robert was still processing, or maybe he was strategizing with Sarah about how to handle this. Either way, I slept better than I had in months. Sunday morning arrived with weak sunlight filtering through my bedroom curtains. I made coffee, settled onto my couch with a book I'd been meaning to read, and tried to pretend yesterday hadn't happened. The pretense lasted until 9:47 a.m. when my phone started ringing. Robert's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. He called again and again. I silenced my phone and went back to my book, but the words blurred together meaninglessly. By noon, I had 26 missed calls. 18 from Robert, 6 from Sarah, 2 from Chloe. No voicemails. Interestingly enough, just the desperate ringing of people who'd suddenly realized their financial situation had shifted dramatically. Text started around 1 p.m. Robert, we need to talk about this situation immediately. Sarah, how could you do this to your sister on her birthday? Chloe, Robert says you're refusing to help with something. Call me. I responded to none of them. Instead, I opened my laptop and began documenting everything I could remember about the past 4 years, dates, amounts, conversations. The times Sarah had called, crying about potentially losing the house, and I'd offered to help temporarily. How temporarily had stretched into months, then years. The way Robert had explained the refinancing as a way to consolidate some family expenses. The casual mentions of helping Chloe that had somehow morphed into me funding her entire lifestyle, while she remained completely oblivious. Monday brought a new wave of contact attempts. Robert called from different numbers, his cell, the house phone, even Sarah's phone. I blocked them systematically. Work provided a welcome distraction. I buried myself in quarterly reports and budget projections, grateful for the familiar comfort of numbers that actually made sense. My colleague, Maya, stopped by my desk around 3 p.m. You okay? You seem distracted today. Family stuff, I said, which felt like a massive understatement. Nothing I can't handle. She gave me a knowing look. Family stuff is usually the hardest to handle. Let me know if you need anything. The irony wasn't lost on me. A work colleague showing more concern in 30 seconds than my parents had demonstrated in 28 years. I thanked her and returned to my spreadsheet, finding solace in columns and formulas that followed logical rules. Tuesday afternoon, Chloe showed up at my office in downtown Chicago. She looked upset, her carefully applied makeup slightly smudged like she'd been crying. My stomach dropped. Whatever Robert had told her, it clearly wasn't the truth. Can we talk? She asked quietly, hovering near my cubicle. Maybe grab coffee. I saved my work and grabbed my coat. We walked to the coffee shop across the street in silence, ordered our drinks, and found a table in the back corner. Chloe clutched her latte like a lifeline. Robert says you're backing out of some family arrangement, she started, her voice tight. He says you promised to help with the mortgage and now you're refusing. He made it sound like you're trying to force them out of their house. I took a slow sip of my coffee, buying time to choose my words carefully. Did he explain what the arrangement actually was? He said you'd agreed to contribute to family expenses, that it was supposed to be a partnership, but now you're abandoning everyone. Her eyes shimmered with tears. I don't understand, Avery. Why would you do this? Especially right after my birthday. It feels so vindictive. Chloe. I set my cup down gently. What do you know about Sarah and Robert's mortgage situation? She blinked. What? I don't know. They own their house. They've owned it for years. They took out a mortgage 4 years ago. Do you know why? Her forehead creased in confusion. No. I didn't even know they had a mortgage. I thought the house was paid off decades ago. It was. I pulled out my phone, opening my banking app. They took out a $380,000 mortgage. Want to guess what it was for? Chloe shook her head slowly, looking genuinely lost. Your wedding, I said quietly. The initial loan was for your wedding. Then they extended it to help Ethan start his business. Then they refinanced to help with your condo down payment. The blood drained from her face. No. No. They told me they had savings, that they'd been planning for years to help us get started. They lied. The words came out harsher than I intended, but I was tired of sugarcoating reality. They mortgaged their house to fund your life. And for the past 4 years, I've been paying that mortgage, $3,200 a month, every month, directly to the bank. She stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. That's impossible. Why would you? Why wouldn't they tell me? Because it's easier to let me be the family ATM while you stay the golden child who deserves everything. Bitterness crept into my voice despite my best efforts. You want to know what Robert said to me at your birthday party? He told me my purpose in this family is to support your dreams. That I exist to make sure you have everything you need. That I'm ordinary and practical, but you're extraordinary and special. Chloe's hands started shaking around her coffee cup. He wouldn't say that. He absolutely would. He absolutely did. I showed her my phone, the long list of monthly transfers. See these? 4 years' worth? That's $153,600 I paid towards Sarah and Robert's mortgage. The mortgage they took out to fund your wedding, your husband's business, your condo. Did you ever wonder how they could afford all that while Robert's been semi-retired and Sarah only works part-time? She was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know any of this. I believe you, I said, and meant it. Chloe had always been sheltered, protected, kept carefully unaware of the scaffolding holding up her perfect life. But that doesn't change what's happened. I told Robert, I'm done. No more mortgage payments. No more funding the fantasy they've created where everything magically works out for you while I empty my bank account in the shadows. Avery, please. She reached across the table, grabbing my hand. I'll talk to them. We'll figure something out. Ethan and I can help with the mortgage. We can. Can you? I asked gently. Can you really? Or will that cut into the lifestyle you've built, the one funded by their debt and my money? She pulled her hand back, staring at me like I'd slapped her. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Chloe. That's exactly my point. I finished my coffee, suddenly exhausted. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to stop hurting myself. For 28 years, I've been told I matter less, that my job is to facilitate your success. I'm done accepting that role. So, what happens now? Her voice came out small, frightened. Do Sarah and Robert lose the house? They have options. They can sell and downsize. They can ask you and Ethan to actually contribute. Robert can go back to work full-time instead of playing golf 3 days a week. I stood, gathering my things. What they can't do anymore is rely on me to silently fund everything while treating me like an obligation they're stuck with. Chloe remained seated, crying quietly into her hands. I felt a pang of guilt. She genuinely hadn't known, had been as much a pawn in our parents' game as I had. But I couldn't save her from this reality. She needed to understand the real cost of the life she'd been living. I love you, I said softly. I really do, but I can't set myself on fire to keep you warm anymore. I left her there and went back to work, forcing myself to focus on the projects demanding my attention. My phone buzzed constantly. Texts from Sarah, calls from Robert, messages from Chloe. I ignored them all. Wednesday brought a new development. An email from Robert arrived in my personal inbox around 10 p.m. I almost deleted it unread, but curiosity won out. Avery, your mother and I have discussed the situation extensively. We understand you're upset, but you need to understand the broader picture. When you agreed to help with the mortgage, it was with the understanding that this was a family investment. Chloe's success benefits everyone. Her connections, her social standing, her future, these things have value that extends beyond simple dollars and cents. We never meant to make you feel less important. Both our daughters matter to us equally. However, Chloe has always needed more support, more guidance. That's not favoritism. It's recognition of individual needs. You've always been more independent, more capable of handling things on your own. The mortgage situation is complex. Yes, we used the funds to help Chloe and Ethan, but we did so believing you understood and supported this investment in your sister's future. Breaking your commitment now puts us in an impossible position. We're asking you to reconsider. If money is the issue, we can discuss adjusting the amount you contribute. But abandoning us entirely is not the solution. I read it 3 times, feeling my anger build with each pass. The audacity of framing my financial exploitation as a family investment. The gaslighting about my commitment to something I'd been guilt and manipulated into. The suggestion that I was the problem for finally setting boundaries. I drafted 7 different responses before settling on the simplest one. Robert, I did not agree to a family investment. I agreed to help temporarily with what you described as a short-term financial difficulty. That was 4 years ago. You've had 4 years to adjust your budget, find alternative solutions, or be honest with Chloe about the situation. Instead, you chose to rely on my silence and my money while consistently devaluing my worth as a family member. I'm not reconsidering. This decision is final. I hit send before I could second-guess myself, then blocked his email address, too. Thursday morning, my Aunt Eleanor called from North Carolina. Sarah's older sister, someone I'd always liked but rarely saw. Honey, she started, her warm voice immediately making my throat tight. Your mother called me. She's very upset. I wanted to hear your side of things before I said anything to her. I gave her the abbreviated version. The mortgage, the payments, Robert's birthday party comments, my decision to stop. She listened without interrupting, occasionally making small sounds of surprise or dismay. When I finished, she sighed heavily. Oh, sweetheart, I wish I could say I'm shocked, but I'm not. Your mother has always had a blind spot when it comes to Chloe. They both have. You knew? Something in my chest clenched painfully. Not the specifics, but I've watched them treat you girls differently your whole lives. I've said something a few times over the years, but they always had excuses. Chloe needed more attention because she was sensitive. Chloe needed more resources because she had bigger dreams. You were fine on your own. You didn't need as much. Eleanor's voice hardened. It's garbage. For the record, complete garbage. Hearing someone validate my experience after 28 years of gaslighting nearly broke me. I don't know what to do now. You stand firm, she said immediately. What you're doing is healthy and necessary. Your parents created this mess. Let them figure out how to fix it. And Avery, I'm proud of you. It takes real strength to set boundaries with family, especially when they've trained you your whole life to accept less. We talked for another hour. She shared stories I'd never heard. Times she'd argued with my parents about their treatment of me. Holidays where she'd noticed the disparity in gifts or attention. Apparently, I'd had one person in my corner all along. I just hadn't known it. Friday afternoon, Ethan called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello, Avery. He sounded tired. Can we talk? Just us. No parents involved. I'm listening. Chloe told me everything about the mortgage, the money, all of it. He paused. I had no idea about any of it. Your parents told us they'd saved for years to help us get started. I would never have accepted their help if I'd known they were going into debt. They refinanced their paid-off house, Ethan. They went into debt by choice. I know, and I feel sick about it, he sighed. Look, I'm not calling to convince you to start paying again. That's not your responsibility, and it never should have been. I'm calling to tell you that Chloe and I are going to take over the mortgage payments. We've been going through our finances, and we can swing it if we make some adjustments. I sat down slowly, not quite believing what I was hearing. You're serious? Completely. We're selling the condo. It's too much house anyway, and the market's good right now. We'll move somewhere smaller, more affordable, use the equity to pay down the mortgage balance, then handle the monthly payments ourselves. He laughed bitterly. Robert is furious, by the way. Apparently, we're both ungrateful children now. Welcome to the club, I said, surprised to find myself smiling slightly. Chloe wants to talk to you. She's been a mess since Tuesday. She genuinely had no idea how you'd been treated, how much you'd been carrying. He hesitated. I know things are complicated with your family, but she's trying to understand. She's horrified by what Robert said to you. I'll think about it, I said carefully. I need some space right now from all of it. I get it. Just know that when you're ready, she'll be here. We both will. He paused again. And Avery, thank you for everything you did, even though you shouldn't have had to do any of it. You're a better person than any of us deserved. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet apartment, processing this new development. Ethan and Chloe taking over the mortgage changed things, removed the immediate crisis my parents had been using to justify their panic. But it didn't change the fundamental problem. The way I'd been treated, the role I'd been assigned, the decades of being told I mattered less. That night, Sarah showed up at my apartment. I saw her through the peephole, standing in the hallway looking smaller and older than I remembered. For a moment, I considered not answering, but curiosity, or maybe something like hope, made me open the door. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I stepped aside, letting her enter. She looked around my apartment like she'd never seen it before, though she'd been here plenty of times. Maybe she was seeing it differently now, noticing the nice furniture I bought myself, the art on the walls, the life I'd built without any help from them. "Your father doesn't know I'm here," she started, perching on the edge of my couch. "He'd be angry if he knew." "Okay," I said neutrally, remaining standing. I wanted to apologize. Her hands twisted in her lap. "For how we've treated you, for taking advantage of your generosity, for letting your father say those horrible things without defending you. You were there," my voice came out sharper than intended, "at the birthday party when he told me my purpose was to support Chloe." She flinched. I was in the other room. I heard raised voices, but I didn't hear the specific words. "Your father told me later what he'd said. He thought it was justified, that you needed to be reminded of your priorities." "My priorities?" I laughed, the sound bitter even to my own ears. "Being the family cash machine." "We never saw it that way," she started, but I held up my hand. "Stop. Please just stop with the excuses and the justifications." I moved to the window, staring out at the parking lot below. "You want to know what breaks my heart? Not the money. I can make more money. It's that you genuinely believe Chloe deserves more than me, that she's worth more, that her dreams matter more. You've believed it for so long that you can't even see how messed up it is." "That's not true," Sarah protested weakly. "We love you both differently." I turned to face her. "You love us differently. Chloe gets unconditional love, support, resources, pride. I get conditional love based on how useful I am. How little I complain, how well I fulfill my assigned role as her supporting character." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "You're our daughter. Of course, we love you. Then why does it feel like I have to earn it every single day while Chloe just has to exist?" The question I'd been carrying for 28 years finally found its voice. Why was I never enough just as myself? Why did I have to be useful, helpful, practical, convenient? Why couldn't I just be loved? She cried then, proper sobbing that shook her shoulders. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to fall back into my old role of making everything easier for everyone else. But I stayed where I was, watching her cry, letting her sit with the discomfort of what she'd helped create. "I don't know how to fix this," she finally said, her voice thick with tears. "You can't," I said gently. "Not quickly, anyway. This isn't something you can apologize away or throw money at. This is 28 years of damage. It's going to take time, therapy, real change, if it can be fixed at all. What do you want from us?" She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. "I want you to see me," I said simply. "Really. See me. Not as Chloe's sister or your backup plan or the practical one who doesn't need attention. Just as Avery, your daughter who has worth and value completely independent of how I can serve this family." She nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. "Your father won't change. You know that, right? He's too stubborn, too set in his ways. Then he can have the relationship with me that his stubbornness earns him," I said, "which might be no relationship at all." Sarah stood, moving toward the door. She paused with her hand on the handle. "Ethan told us they're selling the condo to take over the mortgage. Your father is livid. He thinks you poisoned them against us." I told them the truth. If that poisoned anything, the poison was already there waiting. I crossed my arms. They're adults making their own decisions, just like I am. He wants me to convince you to keep paying. Says it's your responsibility since you committed to it. She looked at me with something resembling desperation. I'm not asking you to. I just want you to know what he's thinking. His thoughts on my responsibilities aren't my problem anymore. She left quietly, and I locked the door behind her, feeling drained but oddly relieved. One conversation down. Hundreds more to go, probably. But maybe, just maybe, something had shifted. The weekend passed quietly. I caught up on chores, met Maya for brunch, took a long walk through a Chicago park near my apartment. My phone stayed mostly silent. Robert had apparently gotten the message that I wasn't responding, and everyone else seemed to be processing the new normal. Monday morning, I arrived at work to find an email from Chloe waiting in my personal inbox. Avery, I don't expect you to forgive me or Sarah and Robert anytime soon. Maybe never. I'm still trying to process everything myself. Ethan and I met with a realtor this weekend. We're listing the condo next week. It feels strange to let it go, but also right. We never should have had it in the first place. Not like this. I've been thinking about all the times over the years when I just assumed Sarah and Robert were covering things. Your birthday gifts were always smaller than mine, I noticed, but I told myself you preferred practical things. You never came on family vacations. They said you were too busy with work. And I believed them. You drove the same car for 10 years while I got a new one every few years. I thought you were just more frugal. I see it now. How they trained me not to question things. How they made my needs the center of everything while yours barely registered. How they used your money to fund my life while keeping me deliberately ignorant. I'm angry at them. I'm angry at myself for not seeing it. And I'm heartbroken that my success came at the cost of your well-being. You don't owe me anything. Not forgiveness, not a relationship, not even a response to this email. But I want you to know that I see you now. I see what you sacrificed. I see how they treated you. And I'm sorry. So incredibly sorry. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. If you never want to speak to me again, I understand that, too. Your sister, Chloe, I read it twice, feeling emotions I couldn't quite name. Anger, grief, relief, hope, all tangled together in a knot I didn't have the energy to untangle. I saved the email but didn't respond. Not yet. Maybe not for a while. Work became my sanctuary during those weeks. Numbers made sense in ways family dynamics never had. Maya noticed the change in me. The lighter energy despite the family chaos swirling in the background. You seem different lately, she said one afternoon, dropping by my desk with coffee. More settled, maybe. Is that the right word? I considered the question carefully. Maybe liberated is more accurate. I finally stopped doing something that was destroying me. She nodded knowingly. Family expectations can be brutal. My mom wanted me to be a doctor like my brother. Took me years to accept that disappointing her was better than hating my life. We talked for nearly an hour about family pressure, about the guilt that comes with choosing yourself, about the surprising relief that follows. Having someone understand without needing the full story felt validating in ways I hadn't anticipated. That evening, I did something I'd been avoiding for years. I opened a savings account specifically for myself. Not for emergencies, not for family obligations, just for dreams I hadn't let myself have. Within the first month, I'd saved more than I had in the previous 2 years combined. The money that used to disappear into my parents' mortgage now accumulated with startling speed. I started researching graduate programs in financial planning, something I'd wanted to pursue but had always pushed aside, telling myself the tuition money needed to go elsewhere. Looking at program descriptions, admission requirements, potential career trajectories, it felt like opening a door I'd kept locked for far too long. My apartment became a different space, too. I replaced the hand-me-down furniture from my college days with pieces I actually chose: a reading chair by the window, bookshelves that didn't sag in the middle, kitchen equipment that worked properly instead of barely functioning cast-offs from my parents' house. Each purchase felt like a small rebellion, a declaration that my comfort mattered. The guilt tried to creep in sometimes, late at night when I couldn't sleep. Whispers that I was selfish, that family meant sacrifice, that walking away made me the bad daughter Robert had always implied I was. But then I'd remember his words at the birthday party, the casual cruelty of reducing my entire existence to financing Chloe's dreams, and the guilt would fade back into righteous anger. 3 weeks later, Aunt Eleanor called again. "Your parents' house sold," she announced without preamble. "They closed yesterday." I nearly dropped my coffee. "They sold it?" I thought Chloe and Ethan were taking over the mortgage. "They were planning to, but apparently your parents decided they didn't want to be beholden to their children for housing costs." Eleanor's tone suggested she found this reasoning ironic. "They sold to the first offer, took the equity, and bought a small townhouse in a retirement community. Your father is miserable, but it's probably the smartest financial decision they've made in years." Wow. I sat down slowly, trying to process this development. "Is Sarah okay?" "She's adjusting. I think part of her is relieved, actually. That big house was too much for them anyway." Eleanor paused. "She asked me to tell you that she started therapy. Individual sessions to work through some things. She didn't want to tell you directly because she thought it might feel manipulative, like she was trying to prove she's changing." Something warm bloomed in my chest. "That's good. Really good." Your father, on the other hand, is telling everyone who'll listen that his ungrateful daughters forced him out of his home." She snorted. Most people just nod politely and change the subject. We talked for a while longer, catching up on extended family news and her own life. Before hanging up, she said, "You did a brave thing, honey. Standing up for yourself, setting boundaries. I know it doesn't always feel good, but it was necessary. You're building a healthier life." After we hung up, I sat with those words. A healthier life. It didn't feel particularly healthy yet, more like surgery. Painful and messy, but ultimately necessary. The wounds were still fresh, the healing incomplete. But I was on the right path. 2 months after Chloe's birthday party, I met her for coffee again. My idea this time, initiated through a carefully worded text. After weeks of consideration, she looked different, tired, but somehow more grounded. We made small talk for a few minutes before she said, "We moved into a rental apartment last week. 2 bedrooms, nothing fancy. It's weird, but good. Weird, like, we're starting over. How's Ethan handling it?" "Better than expected, honestly. He admitted he'd been feeling pressured to maintain a certain lifestyle, the condo, the cars, the keeping up with everyone thing. This feels more authentic to who we actually are." She smiled slightly. "We cook at home now instead of eating out 4 times a week." Revolutionary concept. I laughed despite myself. Groundbreaking. I've been seeing a therapist, too, she said quietly. Working through a lot of guilt and trying to understand how I was so blind to everything. She says, I was trained to be blind. That the family dynamics were deliberately structured to keep me unaware. It helps, but it doesn't erase what happened. No, I agreed. It doesn't. We talked for over an hour, carefully, navigating the minefield of our shared history. It wasn't comfortable, but it felt honest in a way our relationship never had before. She didn't make excuses or ask for premature forgiveness. I didn't pretend the hurt had magically disappeared. As we were leaving, she hugged me. A real hug, not the performative ones from before. Thank you for giving me a chance, she whispered. I know I don't deserve it yet. You're working on deserving it, I said. That's what matters. The months that followed brought gradual changes. Sarah and I began having monthly phone calls, awkward at first, but slowly becoming easier. She told me about therapy, about confronting her own childhood dynamics that had shaped how she parented. She apologized repeatedly, and I gradually learned to accept those apologies while maintaining my boundaries. Robert and I didn't speak. He sent one email 6 months after the birthday party, a stiff message that technically apologized while making it clear he still thought I'd overreacted. I responded with equal stiffness, thanking him for the apology, but making no promises about rebuilding our relationship. He didn't email again. Chloe and I developed something new. Not quite the sisterhood I'd wished for as a child, but an adult relationship built on honesty rather than illusion. We met for coffee monthly, shared occasional texts, celebrated each other's wins without competition or comparison. A year after that birthday party, I got a promotion at work. Senior financial analyst to financial director, with a significant raise and my own office. I called Eleanor first, then Maya, then Sarah. All three celebrated with genuine enthusiasm. Chloe sent flowers to my office with a card. * Congratulations on the success you earned all by yourself. So proud of you, *. I cried reading that card, but they were good tears. Healing tears. My apartment gradually transformed into a real home. I bought the couch I'd always wanted, invested in art that spoke to me, created a space that reflected who I was rather than who I thought I should be. The money I'd been sending to my parents' mortgage now funded my own dreams, my own future. I won't pretend everything became perfect. The hurt didn't disappear overnight. I still had moments of anger, of grief for the childhood I deserved but never received. The family gatherings I attended remained complicated, navigating the careful distance I maintained with Robert while trying to build something healthier with Sarah. But I also had something I'd never experienced before. Freedom. The freedom to define my own worth. The freedom to invest in myself without guilt. The freedom to walk away from relationships that demanded I shrink to fit someone else's vision of who I should be. Standing in my office a year later, looking out at the Chicago city skyline, I thought about Robert's words at that birthday party. * You exist to pay for her dreams. Hate it. The doors there, * he'd meant it as a threat, a reminder of my place in the family hierarchy. Instead, he'd accidentally given me permission to leave, and I'd taken it. Have you ever found the courage to redefine your worth, even when it meant breaking old family patterns?